Hello everyone and welcome back to the pond. My name is Frank, aka Bullfrog TCG, and I'm again joined with my lovely friend Kyle. How are you, man?
How's it going? I'm doing
Yeah, I'm
well.
good, man. I'm good. Ready to get back into it. Last week we didn't post a set review video. I was kind of busy, and then we just couldn't get our timelines to kind of match up. But this week we are coming out with another one, and we are gonna tackle Mind today. So yeah, I mean, let's just get into it. So the first card we are looking at is Eager Apprentice. So while I'm at a battlefield, the energy costs for spells you play is reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1, and he is a 3 energy, 3 might unit.
I think this card is just okay. In reality, I don't think it's particularly playable right now. It dies to Falling Star, as the meme goes. And for it to get value, it needs to live and then make it to a battlefield, so that way you can have 1 extra mana. It seems like a lot of work for 1 extra mana, and the fact that it needs to be on a battlefield means it needs to be in the danger zone. It does have no power cost, which is nice, but in reality, I don't see this card being particularly great. You can play it as a 3/3 vanilla. It's fine, I guess, in that case, but otherwise, it's like I don't see its ability being particularly useful right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think because it is so squishy and because it has to be in a battlefield, I think it could actually have done without the to a minimum of 1 clause. Because if you could play this out on curve and then be able to play like a Stupefy for free, I think that would actually make this card pretty good. But for now, I think if you want this ability, you'd rather just play Energy Conduit. It would cost the same. It doesn't give you the body, but that's going to give you an energy each turn, which is basically the same. So yeah, I'm not really too hyped on this card either. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'd say this is probably a 4 for me, maybe a 5 if like it gets better in the future, but I don't really see it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this a 5 as well. All right, moving on to Consult the Past. So 4 energy, hidden reaction, and draw 2. I mean, this is one of the best cards in Mind, I think. Draw 2 for 4 is not that good, but the fact that it has hidden, so you can basically pay 1 power to draw 2 is insane. And then the fact that you can draw it to trigger your cards, like if you're playing it in Teemo, you can trigger your Ember Monks that get +2 when a hidden card is played. But I think the real power of this card is the fact that it has hidden, so you can basically just draw 2 for free.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good card. I think it's it's essentially 1 power to draw 2 cards, and 1 power isn't nothing. You'll have the alternative cost of obviously of spending all energy, but I think generally you're going to cast this as a reaction via hidden because of the other hidden synergies, and also just to kind of bluff something that you have there. I don't think the card is like crazy. I think it's just decent. There is a process of thinking you have to go through. It's like, do I want to draw 2 cards, or do I really want to like give up this this rune that might push me a whole turn off of like a key breakpoint turn, right? And I think especially in blue, like your breakpoint turns is like having 8 runes to accelerate Watcher, or if you're in Kaisa, like 7 runes for Cathian Rain. So you really want to make sure that like you're playing towards those times and making sure that this fits into that curve. But alternatively, you could just play for 4 if you want to hold up mana for something, or energy for something else, and then do this when they push in. That's also an option. So its versatility is pretty good. So I think I'm going to give this a 6.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't think I can give this a lower than a 7. I think the real power, as I said, is the flexibility. The fact that you can cast this for full mana if you want to, or you can hide it and pay just 1 power to cast it, I think is real power of this card. And like you said, it has some synergies both with hidden cards and like with the Ravenbloom student as well, to kind of give that a buff. So yeah, I think this is just a really, really good consistency card in blue, because they don't really have that many cards that draw your cards. So yeah, I like this a lot. Okay, we are looking at Falling Comet. 5 energy, action, deal 6 to unit at a battlefield.
This card is great, I think. It's great for what it does. 5 is quite expensive, but it does do 6 damage, and it is action speed, and most notably, it doesn't cost power. So currently, I think there aren't really too many decks that play this card, just because with limited deck space, there's usually other better options for what you're trying to achieve. But if we see the future of more like large control-y blue decks, yeah, I can see this being used a lot more. Also, this is used in Lux because Lux gets to draw the extra card. So essentially, this becomes a 5 energy cantrip that does 6 damage or generally just kills something. So it's pretty good there.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this card a lot as well. I think it is, like as you said, I think this is just good for what it does. Doesn't cost a power, so you don't have to lose your kind of mana curve while playing this. It also has action, so you can play it on your opponent's turn. Yeah, I mean, just dealing 6 damage is a lot, but as you say, you don't really want to play this in all the blue decks, because for 1 extra energy, you can play Singularity and then deal 6 damage to 2 units, which is just a lot better, and that deals off battlefields as well. It does cost 2 power, but I think for the added effect of dealing to another unit and dealing off battlefield, you'd rather just play that. But I think in Lux, I think this card is great.
I think I'm probably going to give this a 6.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards it like a 6 or a 7. But yeah, I can agree with you on the 6 as well. Alright, moving on to Jeweled Colossus. 5 energy, 5 might, vision, and shield. I think this card is a pretty interesting one. It reads pretty vanilla to me. Vanilla with like some extra keywords, because vision is such a niche ability. Like, it doesn't do a whole lot. And then it does have shield, so it is a bit bigger on defense. But for 5 energy, like, I think the like vanilla-ish units just get worse the higher up the mana curve you get. So if this the Stalwart Poro is a 2/2 with shield, and this has vision, but it is a 5/5 with shield, which I think is just a lot worse, because for 5 energy you could be doing a lot better than this.
Yeah, I think that this is a very unique kind of, I guess, like a unique card that's trying to solve it, or is useful in a very niche circumstances. I think there is the fact that, again, doesn't cost power is really important. I think that it's one of the few units in blue that is big, that doesn't cost power, that you can kind of bridge you over into the late game. I know for a while this was being used, or at least being tested, against Yi decks to help defend against some of the more early versions of Master Yi. Now I think it's like been moved over to like the Mega Mech card, where it's like that they can stop a Watcher on its own. But yeah, I think this card is just okay. I like the fact that it has a beefy body and doesn't cost power, which is kind of rare.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it is to be said, like, it does have some synergy if you play it in like a deck with Karma, then it gets a buff when you use the vision ability. And if we get more stuff to like, or more ways to make the vision ability more consistent and more desirable, I think this card could be better. But for now, I don't think it's that great. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna give this. A 4.
Oh, I would probably give it a 6. I think it is useful, and I think it's better than just like an average card, but only very slightly.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, moving on to Lecturing Yordle. 3 energy, 2 might, tank, and when you play me, draw 1.
I like this card a lot. It doesn't seem like it's crazy, at first glance, but it is a card that replaces itself. So, and it is a body, so that is good. Just getting something on the board that already paid for itself is really good, especially against decks like Kai'Sa, where they're always picking stuff off your backline, and having already drawn a card and gotten your value is pretty good. And the fact that it has tank is actually a nice little bonus. You can push it with other things in close fights to kind of to force them to essentially waste damage on something that they would have killed. I think a big use case of this is like pushing it with a Watcher and taking over a battlefield, and it can trade up into I believe a Debloom Predator on Yi. So it's 10 minus 3, which is 7, and normally that would trade with the Watcher, but then since you have the tank, they ended up having to kill the 2 Might Poro instead, and you get to save your Watcher. So that's like a nice little use case. So definitely, I like this card. I like any card that kind of replaces itself.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Like just a three energy, like you can play this on turn 1 if you're going second, or if you're playing the Obelisk, you can play it on turn 1 going first. Just replace itself, as you said, it has tanks, so it protects whatever else you kind of pair alongside with it. Yeah, I think this card is great. Not really more to say about that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give like an 8 for this card.
Yeah, I can give it an 8 as well. 8 is good for lecturing oral. Okay, here he is, the Mega Mech, 7 energy, 8 might, and a lot of flavor text. Yeah, this is one of those vanilla cards again. We looked at some other vanilla cards, and a lot of them are evenly statted, so 5 for 5 or 4 for 4. This is an 8 for 7, which I think it makes it more desirable to run some of these bigger vanilla bodies. It's kind of the same thing with the Mountain Drake, that is also like a 10 for 9 or something like that. And I think the key thing about this now that's kind of getting people hyped is the fact that it's a mech. So I'm gonna be really surprised if this doesn't synergize with the upcoming Rumble Legend. But I mean, for now, I think it's a very niche card. But I'm really interested to see what this will bring to the Rumble deck coming up.
Yeah, same. I think this card surprisingly is actually better than it looks. It has, no power cost, and 7 is less than 8, so it's slightly above rate. It is a mech, so having those synergies will, we'll see if it proves to be good. But even right now, I know that some Kaises are using this, or blue decks in general, to have just a big body that can go toe to toe with a Deadboom Predator. So having something big that doesn't cost power is also really good.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think this is one of those cards it has a certain score now, but as we get more cards printed, I think the score of this, like in general, is gonna just get lower, because we're just gonna have more options in this lot. But I mean, outside of that, like there is the synergy with Rumble, hopefully. That's kind of so in that deck it is gonna be a bit better, is what I assume. But outside of that, I think it's gonna get less and less desirable the more cards we get printed. But I think for now I am gonna give this, I can give it a 6.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say too.
All right. Moving on to Orb of Regret. 1 energy for a gear that says exhaust and give a unit -1 this turn to a minimum of 1 might.
Now this is a weird card. It hasn't really seen play in a long time. It is a unique effect, and it is very cheap to cast. So essentially just being able to reduce something, having a stupefy every turn, essentially. So yeah, I don't know. In theory, it could be pretty good. I think that the fact that it isn't a spell actually probably in some ways makes it worse, because usually you'll use a stupefy with like a Ravenbloom student, which would boost it itself, but this isn't a spell. But I'm guessing that future like gear synergies, especially it's blue, so the Rumble might be something that we have to look forward to. The fact that it is so cheap, and the fact that it is reusable seems pretty interesting to me. I also like, it also targets, so I wonder if like there's targeting synergies might be useful in the future. I like the art. It's pretty cool art.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is very interesting, and I think this is one of those cards that is gonna have a lot of. I think it just hasn't been explored that much yet. I think I would really love to see this effect have reaction, because I think one of the strengths of this, and you can kind of see the flavor text, is with Ari, and I think this card could be really good in Ari in combination with the Foxfire. And then if you could use this as reaction speed, the Foxfire would get a lot better. And also, like, it does have synergy with the 3 might unit in that we're gonna get to, that restands every time you play a gear, as it does cost 1 energy only. So yeah, I think this just it's kind of like a very. I think the main problem now is just the fact that you had to put it in your deck. You kind of have to, if you want to play 3 of these, then you have to, not play 3 of something else. But it is a really nice thing to just have on the board, to kind of be able to breakpoint some swings, to kind of get over stuff when you're attacking and stuff like that. But then again, it is only 1 might, so in some cases that's just not going to be enough, and then in other cases it's going to be exactly enough. So it is kind of it's a very small effect.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested to see if there is going to come more synergies to kind of play around with these kinds of cards.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned about it not being reaction speed is like the big thing that's keeping us from being like absolutely amazing. I think that you're only really able to use this on offense, right? And it's also you're calling your shot, so your opponent knows exactly what your intents are once you use this, or generally. So it's I think it could be useful, but right now it's probably just okay. So my guess is like my rating is probably around 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna give this. I think I'm just gonna give this a 5, middle of the tree. All right. We are looking at, oh, there he is. Yeah, Pit Crew, 3 energy, 3 might. When you play a gear, ready me. I am so excited to kind of find a deck to play this card in, because I think this card is really cool. But it kind of needs, like, restanding whenever you play gear. Okay, it's nice you can play a bunch of gear and then just move him around, but that's all you get for now. There's not really anything else you kind of have to make this effect better, because you can pair it with like stuff like stuff that gives you bonus when you attack, but then that's only gonna happen 2 times a turn anyways. So I'm really curious to kind of, it would be really interesting to kind of hear what the creators thought when they made this card. Like, did they have any specific synergies in mind, or maybe like upcoming stuff to kind of work around this? But I think it is a really sick card, and I love the art. And yeah, as I said, I'm really excited to be able to build with this. But I think for now it's not really doing enough. But it does have a nice synergy with the Orb of Regret that we just looked at.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I do like the ability. As more and more gears are printed, I'm sure that eventually decks that are, kind of revolve around a particular gear or a set of gears, I think this would just be an auto include. It's on rate stats, and then being able to play it immediately, have it rush in, and then if you play a second one, you can retreat it, right? You can be like really tricky with this, especially if you have something that's like bouncing stuff. So like I think, what is it, the pack?
Yeah, the pack of wonders and the treasure trove thing.
Yeah, whichever one lets you bounce.
Yeah, the pack of wonders, I think, is the one that bounces. Yeah.
Maybe Pack of Wonders, play your 1 mana gear, use it, play it again, tap it again, and then you can like move your pit crew.
That's actually very interesting, because if you play with the Orb of Forget, you can play it out, you give something minus, bounce it back, play it out again, and give something minus again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay.
Then, ideally, you have attacked 1 battlefield and then brought it back, right?
Yeah. Maybe I have the ganking battlefield as well. Then kind of. Okay, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Right. I can see those synergies. I'm gonna
start cooking after this.
Yeah. So the ideal scenario is we have 3 Pack of Wonders, and then we do that 3 times. Okay.
One
yeah.
Big combo turn to score 2 points.
Well, 2 points or 2 points, I guess. Yeah, but yeah, for now I think this as well is just the middle of the tree, just a 5.
Yeah, I'll give that as well.
All right. Yeah, moving on to Riptide Rex, one of my favorite cards. 6 energy to power, 6 might. When you play me, deal 6 to an enemy unit at a battlefield. So, I mean, the big thing about this one is that it is very expensive. It does cost 2 power, so it does set you back a turn as far as runes go. But I think the big strength of this, because this is very easily compared to the Snapvine. The Snapvine costs 1 less, but the big drawback of Snapvine, and the reason not a lot of players are playing it now, like anymore, is that it gets damage dealt back. This doesn't. But then again, this can only target battlefields, so it is kind of a trade-off. You can play either one. The Snapvine is a bit more flexible, but it's also a lot more vulnerable. This doesn't die itself, and when you develop it, it is a really big body on the board as well, and you kind of take care of one of your opponent's big bodies. So it is a huge tempo play if you can kind of get maximum value out of this.
Yeah, I really like this card. It's definitely like fallen out of favor for other big spells. Usually, like the blue decks are trying to moving towards a time warp turn and like just ditching two power to essentially go back an entire turn away from that big turn is usually not what you want to be doing. Also because there's just a lot of reaction speed buffs. The Yi decks, I'm trying to think of like places where you'd want to use this. Like the Yi decks are now on average playing either Aurora or the Rampy versions, where you just have these bigger units, and even the smallest big units in that deck, like the Yi unit itself or the eggplants.
Yeah, the tasty Feyfolk.
Feyfolk, thank you. They like with one like buff spell, they they're safe, so you don't get the value from it. The fact that it's not like Stepvine where it doesn't actually, they don't deal damage to each other, it means you can't be blown out by smoke screen, which is very, very good. But yeah, I think this, as a meta shifts, maybe we'll see more of this card, because I really do like it, and I also like the art. And it's a pirate, so maybe there's like a pirate themed.
Oh my god, it's a pirate! That's insane. I didn't even see that. Wow.
So, you read pirates, anyone? That'd be fun.
Well, yeah, I'm ready for it. Okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna like, because I like it so much. Yeah, I mean, I can't go lower than a 7 for this one. I kind of want to give it a bit more. Okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with the 7. I really like this one, but you kind of do have to take a turn off to play it. But yeah. Okay, moving on to the offender himself. Smokescreen, 2 energy, 1 power reaction. Give a unit -4 might this turn to a minimum of 1.
Yeah, this card is great. It's incredibly devastating. It makes it so anytime your opponent has 2 energy up, and at least one of their runes is blue, you have to worry about automatically losing a combat. It's just it's essentially like discipline, right? It draws you a card for 2 energy, but it gives 2 might. So this is, you can essentially, this is like 2 disciplines worth of buffs at reaction speed, which is great. So you can use this offensively, defensively. You can use it, let them buff up however much, and then use it to like just essentially negate all of like the cards they spent to do that. Yeah, it's just really good.
Yeah, I think this card is insane. It kind of forced the meta to shift away from cards like Snapvine. It was really popular in the beginning, and then people started playing this, and they were like, okay, well, Snapvine is just dying to itself now. Because this card was so prevalent. Yeah, I think it's insane. 2 energy for -4 is a lot. Like you do have to pay power for it, but like for the rate, like for just spending 2 energy, I think that's like the biggest swing you can have. Discipline is like, yep, as we said, +2. It does draw your card. On guard is 1 energy for +2. And this is 2 energy for 4. Yeah, I think this card is insane. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this a 9.
Yeah, I'll probably give this an 8 or a 9. In that area.
Yeah, one of the best blue spells currently printed, I think. Okay, we are looking at another spell, Sprite Call. 3 energy, hidden action, and play a ready 3 might sprite unit token with temporary. I think this card is really funny. It's not really played a lot. If you want this like sprite ability, you'd usually just pay 1 extra and a power and play Sprite Mother instead. But I think the big strength of this one is that it does have hidden. So it has some synergy in Timo. It is, I mean, the big minus with the sprite tokens is that they have temporary, so they can't hold. So it is like purely an aggressive card. I mean, it could be defensive as well, because you could play it out to the battlefield you're hiding it at to kind of get some more power there. But like as far as the hidden cards go, I don't think this is the first card you put on the deck. Even now, even though we don't have that many hidden cards in like specifically the Teemo deck, there are a lot of options that are usually a bit better than this one. But I do think it's a fun card.
Yeah, I agree. I actually like this card, and I actually stumbled upon this card kind of recently because I was looking for a card that essentially would be Accelerate, right? And the deck I was working on doesn't really have many great Accelerate units. And this is one of the ones I stumbled upon, and I'm like, oh, this is actually an Accelerate unit for 3 with no power cost. So, and has the added upside of, being essentially a combat trick or like a hidden trick, right? So I think it's actually better than it reads or people might give it credit for right now. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think that I have actually grown to like this card more than I thought.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I think I'm probably a 6 for me.
Yeah, I was thinking like 5 or 6 in that range.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Moving on to Stupefy. 1 energy, reaction, give a unit -1 might this turn to a minimum of 1, and then draw 1.
This card's great. It is, reaction speed, 1 mana spell. 1 mana spells generally are all pretty good in this game. Just being able to cast something at reaction speed for 1 mana means anytime you have any mana up, your opponent has to worry about it. And the fact that it is a cantrip is the real benefit there. So cantrip meaning that it can replace itself. So you're essentially not even spending cards to do this. -1 is all you need sometimes, right? And what's also interesting is that currently in the game, a lot of the damage dealing spells, the breakpoint for like damage dealing spell and unit is usually just off by 1 if it doesn't kill it. So this allows you to use the damage dealing spell, pay the 1 extra to lower the might and kill it, and then you actually didn't end up spending any extra cards. You just spent 1 extra mana. So it's pretty good. And also it's a spell that synergizes with things that cast on spells like Ravenbloom. It fills the graveyard and replaces itself for things like Mundo. It's just all around a great card.
Yeah, I think so too. Don't really have anything to add. The fact that it draws 1 and it plays itself is just it's just a good card.
It is probably an 8 or a 9 for me.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this an 8 as well. Okay, we are looking at Watchful Sentry. 2 energy, 1 might, death knell, draw 1. This is just like an ideal turn 1 play. It gets you out on turn 1, it conquers the battlefield, and then if it dies, it just replaces itself. So yeah, I think this is all you want in a turn 1 play, essentially.
Yeah, I like this card. Like I said before, any card that replaces itself, I love. So this is one of those cards. It is just a body that replaces itself, which is nice. The obvious weakness is that it is only 1 power, so you aren't necessarily winning any fights against your enemy's turn 1 plays. But if you are looking to just get on the battlefield, get a conquer, trigger, and then have this die, trade a point essentially, and then you don't lose any actual value, and you get to cycle through your deck a little bit more. That's pretty good. In the future, maybe there will be some interesting death knell synergies that we can like with Karthus, where you're able to double trigger the death knells and now you're drawing a few cards, or like maybe you can trigger a death knell without actually killing a unit, or so that would be kind of cool too. So I can see this card being used for quite a while.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm gonna give this a strong 7.
Yeah, 7 sounds good to me as well.
Yeah. Okay, Blast Cone Fae. 2 energy, 1 power, 2 might, hidden, and when you're playing, give a unit -2 might this turn to a minimum of 1. I think the big strength of this card is the artwork. The artwork on this one is sick. It is another hidden card, and it's kind of unrate for like this is a 2 might that gives -2, and then you have the hidden Teemo that is a 1 might that gets +3, so it's kind of like it's got a 4 might. You make a 4 might difference when you play this out. It is a bit squishy, and -2. I think where -2 is really good is when you play it against something like a Yasuo, for example, that uses its might to deal damage. Then you can just kind of play this out, and then it deals 4 instead of 6, which is a huge deal. But yeah, I think outside of that, there's not really a lot of decks you want to play this in now. I think the team was kind of the go-to where you want to play this, and even then you might not even run the whole set. So yeah, I think it is a fun card, but maybe not the greatest.
Yeah, I think it's a really unique effect. Having a 4 might swing from being face down is pretty great. It also does target, which may or may not be a good thing. If something has deflect, it's probably not a good thing, but there might be certain cards as, hey, when you target me, you do this, right? The big thing about this card, though, is that it has a power cost, which does not feel good, especially that early in the game when you want to be playing this. Fortunately, it does have, like, the when you play me means it triggers anytime you play it, so you can play it in your base and then get the effect. So that's really good. I think that this card lives and dies by, like, I guess, the meta you're finding yourself in, because it's really about the breakpoints. I think the -2 is fine, but really it really depends on, like, what situations you're running into, where -2 would be super impactful. And there definitely are situations where, like having that extra few might would be good, but you're essentially paying a power for it, which is always feels bad. So if you're paying a power, you can also just, like, kill a unit, right, with Hidden Blade, or you can, I'm trying to think of other things that would cost a power. Draw
Yeah.
2 cards, or so there. 1 power to minus something by 2, maybe that's reasonable, right? Like, if you look at Stupefy, that's 1 energy for -1, 2 energy for -2, 2 energy is, like, worth 1 power, kind of. Yeah. So yeah, I think it has its uses, but they're more niche.
Yeah, I think so too. And, like, yeah, you don't really want to play this out for the full cost. This is ideally just want to play it on with the hidden ability. But yeah, I think I'm gonna give this. This is what I think. This is just on the middle of a tree, just a 5.
I think I might go 6. I think there might be more uses for this than, I guess, your average card, but not a very high 6.
Yeah. A weak 6 for Blastcone Fae. Okay, and Energy Conduit. 3 energy for a gear that has reaction, and then add 1. Yeah, I think this card is, like we talked about, the Igor Apprentice, I think it's called, that gives you an energy, or it reduces the cost of spells when you have it in the battlefield. I think this is just so much better, because not only is it a gear, so it doesn't die that easily, it doesn't require you to, like, have any setup around it, and it also just adds 1 ability, so you could also use this to play, whatever. It's not restricted to only spells. So I think if you want that ability, I think this is just a way better option. But then again, you don't play this in every deck. I think it's pretty good in Lux, because there you kind of want to as much energy as possible to work with. And I think also for, like, just other kind of big stuff decks in blue, this ability is pretty cool to have. But yeah, like, outside of that, I think you don't really want to play this in every deck, because it does take you a turn to play it out. And that is, like, potentially, like, the early points that could matter a lot in certain matchups.
Yeah, I think that the biggest weakness for this card is that it costs 3 and it is slow, right? Essentially, it's either your entire first turn or eating up most of your second turn, if not all of it, right? So the effect is great. Like, once it sticks to the board, there aren't many things that are going to interact with this, so you just kind of have it for the rest of the game. And one overlooked thing, I think, is that it's not just, like, ramping you, is that because there is a maximum, it actually increases your maximum amount of mana, right? So you go from, say, 12 mana to 13 or 14 or 15, and those extra few points means, like, you can actually set up huge combo turns that of like 2 different spells that you normally wouldn't be able to otherwise, which is interesting to think about. Again, I don't think you're really going to see this card unless it's, like, big stuff blue, which isn't the most, like, consistent archetype right now. I think, like, in the future this might be might become a staple in, like, a hard control kind of list, but again, like, some gear focused blue list, red blue list, for example.
Yeah.
Might be interesting, but yeah, I think this card's good. for what it does. It's reusable, which is nice.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this. I think I'm gonna give this a 6.
Yeah, I'll give it a 6 as well.
Okay, we are looking at Garbage Grabber. 2 energy for a gear that says recycle 3 from our trash, and then pay 1 energy, exhaust it, and draw 1. I think this card is pretty cool. I think the big drawback, I don't think for this ability, like it might be just their way of future-proofing it, but I think for this ability it doesn't really need the 1 energy cost on it. I think you're already recycling 3 from trash, so you can't, I mean, unless you're playing something that cycles a lot, you're not gonna be able to use this every turn. So this is gonna get you a draw like every other turn maybe. So for that reason I don't think this is as good as it could have been. I think if this didn't have the energy cost attached to it, it would have been a lot better, and I think it would have been fair as well. So yeah, and I think, yeah, I don't know, I'm thinking like, could this have a reaction? Maybe not, that would probably been a bit too good. But I think definitely the 1 energy cost I think could go.
My suspicion is that they are doing that as like just a general design decision to prevent infinite combos, right? Because at least if you were spending a mana, even if it was just you did it 12 times in a turn, it still caps out rather than drawing through your entire deck. Because I could see a world where you are pitching things from your hand. It's like, oh, discard a card, do this, right? And then like you're not actually paying for that, or anytime you draw a card, discard a card, right? And now it's like, oh, well, now I'm just going to always be like filling up my graveyard just as much as I need to like use this, right? So just preventing any kind of like infinite shenanigans that might happen, especially in multiplayer. But yeah, I actually like this card a lot. I don't think it has a home yet. There's no list that goes long enough where like you're going to get the value for this. Like the most you'll draw I think is like maybe 3-4 cards in a game, which is not bad, but it's like you're taking up, either if you play this early, you're taking up an entire development turn and you're going to be behind a board, and you're not really using this until you filled up your graveyard a bit. It might be okay, but like just the opportunity cost of like the other cards you could be running is interesting. But I think like we might, if there are, like, I know we say this a lot, but if there are more synergies in the future, I can see like this being actually really good. Being able to like just say for every gear, and you get +1, right? This card gets +1. Well, now this is a cheap gear you can throw down that has an added benefit of giving +1 to something else, right? I think that this card I think might see play in the future. I just don't think it's that time is right this second.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I will note as well, you mentioned the multiplayer, and that's very interesting. I think this card gets a lot better in multiplayer, because those games tend to go a bit longer, as far as I've understood. I haven't played multiplayer myself, but that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. And also I think if there ever exists a mill strategy, which I hope never does, because it's never fun to play against, this is just a natural counter to that, because you kind of refill your deck. So yeah, but outside that, yeah, I think it's a bit too niche for now to be played consistently. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this, I think 5 is just a number of the day today, so I think I'm gonna give this a 5, maybe a 4, but I think 5 is good.
Yeah, I'd say 5, because I think of the fact that you are recycling something is also something not to overlook, because if there are cards that are triggered when recycled, right, this could be an amazing card, right? So you just being able to like,
yeah, that's actually synergy with Karma, I realized.
Yeah. So you can definitely trigger Karma, but if we have more cards that trigger on recycle, I can see this card being incredibly good. Just because like you're able to at will recycle 3, and you get the added benefit of drawing something when you're really just looking to recycle stuff.
Yeah. All right. We are moving on to the Gemcraft Seer. 3 energy, 1 power, 3 might, vision, and other friendly units have vision. We just mentioned Karma, which is a yellow card, or a card in order, that says whenever you recycle, you get a buff. And I mean, vision isn't recycling, but you can recycle using it if you would just put the card on the bottom. And I think the real power of this one is that it doesn't say units you play, and it doesn't say cards, which means that this is also going to trigger off Victor's recruit ability, like Victor's legend ability. So all of those guys are going to have vision, and if you pair that with Karma, then you can kind of buff stuff up when you do that. But I think outside of that, as I said, vision for now, I think it's such an inconsistent kind of keyword, or inconsistent keyword, because you never know what's going to be on the top of your deck. And then to get the recycle payoff, you kind of have to put it on the bottom, and then if you want to keep it on the top, then you don't get that payoff either way. So I think it's a very interesting keyword, but I think for now it's not really one that it's not really valued a lot nowadays. And I think the fact that it costs a power as well is a really big drawback.
Yeah, I actually think this card has two major flaws right now. One, like you just mentioned, it costs a power, which is really tough, especially earlier on in the curve, and that it has three might. This means that generally you'll want this thing sitting on your backline, so you get the persistent effect. And if it is at 3 might, it makes it in prime range for Falling Star, right? If this is 4 might for 3 and a power, I think that would be more appropriately statted, and it would also require Falling Star to hit it twice, right? So it makes that trade much more palatable. I think that because it's so weak and easy to kill, you're going to want to try to keep this on the back line, and it's not going to be impacting the board. It might as well just be a gear. It'd be safer as a gear. I think the effect though is actually pretty strong. Being able to turbo through your deck and just until you find a card that you like you mentioned, playing some. I imagine playing this with the card that makes the 1/1 tokens, the one with Legion. I don't remember.
The Vanguard Captain.
Yeah, that's 3 visions right there. So you can check to see, check the top 3 cards of your deck, see which ones you like. If you don't, you put them on the bottom, right? And it's this type of effect in other card games is generally considered very strong, especially when it's like a passive ability like this, where there is some other thing that you're paying for. That's probably why it has the stats that it does. But I also wish it was just a little bit stronger. I think if it had 4 might, it would be significantly better, and not so much better than it actually looks.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think I'm gonna give this a 6 or a 5.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards a 5 on this one as well. I want to build a deck built around this and Karma, and maybe actually the Garbage Grabber as well. I think that could be really fun. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how good that is. And my hopes aren't that high, but I think it's going to be fun. Mm-hmm. But okay, we are looking at another draw card in Mushroom Pouch. 2 energy at the start of your beginning phase. If you control a face down card at a battlefield, draw 1.
This card, it reads so much better than it actually is, I think. Because there's a lot of things, like this only gets value when you have already spent generally an energy or a power to put something face down. I'm going to say, you can say energy because this will typically be run in Teemo, I would imagine. That's where all the face down synergies are. Yeah. So you've already spent energy, so that's 3 energy, really, for you to get a card. It has to live to the next beginning phase, which means that you couldn't have flipped it. You need to keep that card that you presumably placed face down for other reasons face down, and also your opponent can easily push you off of it. So it's just it's one of those, I guess this is meant to be one of those situations where you get rewarded if your opponent just chooses not to interact with you, but at the same time I think having your opponent choose not to interact with you means you're already winning, right? You're already getting a point, you're already benefiting from that situation. So really for you to and we talked about before, it's essentially 2 energy is 1 draw, 1 card, right? So that's on rate in that sense. But you need to spend essentially 3 and have a good track record just to get the effect off once, and it's not consistent really whether you're gonna get the effect off. So you could get nothing, right? So I don't like how inconsistent it is. And even like I'd imagine you're only gonna actually trigger this like if you do trigger it like maybe 2 or 3 times a game max. Which is like for 2 energy, it's like, well, that's like 1 card better than average. And that's just assuming things go right. So yeah, I like the idea of the card. I don't think in practice it's very good.
Yeah, I agree. When you first look at it, it seems like, oh, this is just free draws every turn. But like, then you kind of put in the situation, okay, do I want to activate my hidden card to, like, my Consultant Pass to draw 2? Or do I want to use this to draw 1? And then, like, the fact that your opponent, like, okay, they see you have the Mushroom Pouch, and then they're going to try extra hard to remove your hidden stuff. And it's very easy, like, especially in Teemo, if that's what you're playing this in, which it probably is, because, I mean, it is built for Teemo. Usually Teemo's units are pretty small, so they're really easy to, like, remove and kind of make your opponent have to enter with a hidden card. So this is really easily disrupted, and it doesn't do anything when it enters. It only does something when the turn gets passed back to you. So it is just, yeah, I think it's, for now at least, this is just way too slow and too, yeah, it's just slow. I think it's the problem, and a bit too inconsistent as well.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to give a 4 for this.
Yeah, I can agree with a 4. I wish it was better, but unfortunately,
Yeah,
I
me
don't
too.
think it is. Yeah. Okay, we're looking at Portal Rescue. 3 energy, 1 power, action. Banish a friendly unit, then play it to base, ignoring its cost. This is also one card that I really want to build a deck around, and I'm thinking like using this on like a Thousand Tail Watcher or a Riptide Rex. I think it'd be really cool, or the Harness Dragon to just kill something. And I mean, as we get more on-play effects, like big, impactful on-play effects, I think this is gonna get better as well. It does cost a power, so you really have to have good payouts for this to be worth it. And I'm thinking like maybe like a blue-purple deck where you can also play like the kind of retrieval cards like Annie to get your spells back to kind of do this again. Maybe that could be like a fun thing to do. But I think it is a bit. You're kind of like if this sits in your hand early game, it's just a brick in your hand early, and it really needs enough card to work around it to make it worth running. Because you can't fill your deck up with like 8 drops, especially not in like blue for now. Because yes, I don't know. I really like the card. I really like the design, and I hope to see this card like actually be worth playing. But for now, I think it might be just a bit too. I think it just might be a bit too inconsistent for now.
Yeah, I feel very similarly. I love this card. The power cost is pretty expensive, and it's cool that it is an action speed, but I almost wish it was a reaction speed, so you'd be able to kind of like retreat it. But I do like that you're able to just remove something from combat if things get too dicey. The fact that you're playing it back to base, you can pay additional costs when they come back to base. So if it has accelerate, you can pay the 1 in a power to accelerate it. So that could surprise some people. It'd be really good if you used it on a Watcher and then paid 1 in a power. Now everything is -3, and they also like now you have an accelerated 7-might unit, right? Or maybe use it on a Darius, it resets the effect that you already used earlier in the turn. Then you can play actually no, it wouldn't be do that.
No, that wouldn't work. But I mean
so if it was already on the field and this is the first card you played,
yes,
then you'd be able to trigger the Darius. So you can do interesting things like that. I think it has the potential for a lot of cool plays. I don't know, I haven't really seen it used in any like particularly amazing capacity yet, but it doesn't mean that it's not there. I think it's a cool card.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I can't go any higher than a 5 for this one. I think maybe a 6, but I think just because of like the play rate of it, I think I'm just gonna give it a 5.
I'm gonna give it a 6 just for the potential.
Okay, yeah, I
In
respect it.
terms of where, potential, I like the potential.
Yeah, I respect that. Okay, we're looking at Ravenbloom Student. 2 energy, 2 might. When you play a spell, give me +1 might this turn.
9.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. This card's amazing. It's probably
Yeah.
it's the best 2-drop in blue, hands down, and possibly just the game,
Yeah.
as a whole. I think it is just the best 2-drop in the game.
Yeah.
It's just so strong. It's just a 2-drop that just gets bigger.
Yeah.
And because blue, especially, and mind has so many cheap spells and spells that cantrip and spells that draw cards, like you're just getting all these benefits, and you're also buffing this dude up. And if you have 2 of these things, you're buffing both of them up. And then I was playing a game earlier today, and I buffed them both up to 4, and then attacked over someone's like watcher. It's like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And I didn't spend a single card to do it. Like it was all cantrips.
Yeah.
So it's I think this card's just amazing.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, and I mean, this just makes every buff spell better. Like you play a discipline on this, it's a +3 and draw 1. You play an on guard on this, it's a +3 for 1 energy. Yeah, this card is amazing. Yeah, 9 sounds good to me. Okay, moving on to Retreat. 1 energy, reaction, return a friendly unit to its owner's hand. Its owner channels 1 rune exhausted. Yeah, this card is also amazing. I think it kind of took a long time for this to kind of see traction. I think people didn't realize how good this was. The fact that it has a reaction and it costs 1 energy, no power, means that this is just gonna save anything from anything basically. And the fact you also get an extra rune means like this is the only card in blue that actually ramps you when you play it out, which is hilarious. But I think just the fact that this just saves anything for 1 energy it's just amazing.
Yeah, this is an amazing card. I think you hit it all. The ramp is actually surprisingly relevant. I won a game earlier today by ramping off of this 1 extra rune on the previous turn, just so I would have enough to time warp the next turn. Yeah, I think this card is just awesome. You're able to use it a reaction. Generally, you want to use it anytime your unit is going to die. So you make them, you generally spend a card to do this. Or if they're attacking over it, you don't go -1 for no reason. You at least get a rune out of it. And also, it lets you play the on-play effects again, which is great. So, and play a Yordle, draw a card, bounce it back to your hand, ramp a rune, play it again, draw another card, so that way you just keep like this value engine going. Yeah, I love this card. I'd probably give it an 8 or 9. Probably
Yeah,
8.
I think I'm gonna give this 9 as well. I think this is a really, really good card. Okay, looking at another really good card in Singularity. 6 energy, 2 power, deal 6 to each of up to 2 units.
Yeah, Singularity is very strong. It is essentially the closest thing we have to a board wipe that is one-sided. I think, unchecked power, which we'll get to in a little bit, is the other one, but this one is just takes care of 2 big units. It is very expensive though. But generally you're also taking care of 2 big units. So this can help you claw back the board.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the real power is that this targets anywhere. So you can target the base and battlefield, and yeah, this is just so flexible. It is expensive, of course, but for this effect it kind of has to be expensive, unless it would just be way too broken. But yeah, I think it always sucks to have this played against you, and it always feels really good to play it. So that says a lot about how good the card is.
I'd say this is probably an 8.
Yeah, I think an 8 is good for this as well. We are moving on to oh my god. We are moving on to Sprite Mother. 4 energy, 1 power, 3 might. When you play me, play a ready 3 might sprite unit token with temporary here. Yeah, this is another one of my favorite cards. I think this card is great. It kind of feels like a mini the green big guy. Oh my god.
TC Faithbook?
No, the dragon.
Oh, yes. I know what I don't remember. I can't think of the name.
Oh my god. Okay, well, and with the big 8-drop dragon in green that
Yeah,
buffs something for 8 and then swings in. Oh god, that's annoying. But yeah, this kind of feels like a mini version of that because it develops the body, and then it swings without kind of sacrificing itself. It does cost a power, so it's not like it does set you back a little bit. But I think for the effect, I think this is really worth it.
Yeah, I agree. I really like this card. I don't love that it costs a power, but for its effect, it's pretty strong. Like you said, it's an accelerate card that protects itself. Yeah, I like it. I do. It does come in like to the curve at kind of an awkward place because I don't really know how much if I really want to be spending a power on turn 2. But it does fit in later where you're able to drop these and just kind of snack points. And blue especially needs there's only like this card and the Sprite Call and Watcher that are accelerate. So. By the way, the dragon is White Flame Protector.
Yes, a White Flame Protector, of course. Yeah.
I knew it was started with a W, but I didn't know.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that one for some reason. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was gonna. I'm probably going to give this 7 or 8, maybe an 8.
Yeah, I think 7 or 8. Strong 7 or like weak 8. I think is a good place for this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Ava Achiever, 5 energy, 4 might. When I attack, you may pay 1 mind power to play a card with hidden from your hand here, ignoring its cost.
Yeah, this is interesting. Haven't really seen this card used much, and I have never used it, though it does have some characteristics that are kind of cool about it. It doesn't cost power, which is great. It has 4 might, so it doesn't just instantly die to Falling Star or a Hextech Ray. It will die, however, to a Void Seeker. Being able to pay a power to just play a card with hidden is interesting. I don't know how often with the current set of hidden cards that'll be useful because it's only on attack that you're going to be doing this. And part of the benefit of hitting cards is that they are hidden and that they are like face down on for like a defensive play. This turns them into a cheaper attack play, I guess, which is an interesting way to do something. I don't know, it just like, for example, if you're playing this in Victor, you'd be able to like pay a blue instead of the 2 and a yellow for Hidden Blade and just have a 1 power Hidden Blade, which so it essentially can open up your mana a bit that turn, or your energy a bit that turn. However, it's still like you only use it once, right? You only get to play 1 card, and I don't know how many cards there are like super impactful that it's like, okay, they're generally very cheap anyway. Like the cards that you'd want to play on attack. I can't think of any hidden cards that I really want to be playing on attack that are like that 1 or 2 energy is gonna make or break. I don't know, maybe there is, but at the cost of including this in your deck, I don't know. I do like the card though a lot. I think if there are better hidden cards to use with it, I think we might see it more often.
Yeah, I agree. I think as you said, part of the strength of hidden cards is that they are hidden. And a lot of them are designed around being played on defense, like the Teemo champion, for example. It only triggers on defense. It doesn't trigger on attack, so you can't play that in this. And you kind of like, if you're playing a unit, like you can play the Blast Cone Fae, for example, to give something -2, but then you're also throwing the Blast Cone Fae into the battle, and then they can just kind of kill that off. Or you can play, like you said, you can play the Hidden Blade, which is nice. And I think the real strength of this card is that it doesn't have a restriction. It can play any hidden card. It does use a power, and when you kind of think about like, okay, you could potentially play like Consult the Past, but in Teemo, where you would realistically play this, you could also just pay an energy to hide to hide the Consult the Past to use it the next turn. So I think for now you don't really have many targets that really want you to run this card. But I think as more cards get printed, maybe we'll get that. This could be really good with something like Fight or Flight, for example, to just attack and then bounce something back, and you kind of save 2 energy to use for something else. But yeah, I think, as you said, it is realistically only gonna get off like once, maybe twice, if you're lucky. But ideally, it's gonna get off once, and I don't think we have enough cards that really like being used this aggressively in the hidden slot.
Yeah, what you mentioned about the I can see this being used really like with like I guess the hidden units like that, because that adds more might to the battlefield and also has the effect.
Yeah,
but even then, it's like
I will say this could be pretty good to play with a Sprite Call, because it just get an extra 3 might. Yeah, that could be pretty fun.
But yeah, also it's like, well, is that worth the power? It's essentially just a slightly cheaper hex deck, right? At that point, that's only used when you're already in combat. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm probably going to give this like a 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I think 5 is the max for this one for now. I mean, potentially it could become better. We are gonna get more hidden cards, I assume. So it's probably gonna get better then. But yeah, for now, I think this kind of runs into the same problem as Captain Farron, where he kind of just throws himself at something and then dies, and then you get an effect that is maybe okay out of it because it doesn't have any protection. So yeah, I think 5 is good for this one. Right, looking at Convergent Mutation. 2 energy, 1 power. Reaction, choose a friendly unit, increase its might until it equals the might of another friendly unit. And I believe this is supposed to say until the end of the turn. Yeah, it kind of has to.
Recently erupted.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this card, it's super interesting. I love cards that are a bit weirder like this. And it's been finding use, I believe, in some of the Teemo decks that are running like a Mundo Turbo. So you get out a Mundo and then essentially just turn at reaction speed one of your other units into a Mundo, which is pretty cool. I do wish that you were also, it wasn't just increasing its might. I wish that you could also reduce might and just like match might, so that way you'd be able to use this defensively. Just because, for no other reason that I like that. I think it'd be fun to play with. It would be very strong. But yeah, I think this card's actually pretty decent right now. It lives and dies by the cards that you're running, so you're gonna want to have like both units that you want to copy, just like strong units, as well as units that want to be copied. Units copied into, I guess, like so like the low cost units or low might units. So if you're only increasing the might by like 2 or 3, it's like not worth really the cost that you're paying. But if you are increasing it by, say, the difference between a 2 might unit and a 15 might Mundo, that's pretty good for 2 and a power. So yeah, I think this is a fun card. I like this card.
Yeah, I have one big problem with this card, and that is that it can only be used for your own units. So you can't use it if your opponent is attacking. You can't use this to just like match your opponent's attacker to kind of make them trade. If that was the case, this card would be insane. But I think the fact that now it kind of requires 3 cards to make it work. It requires this one and a big unit and a small unit. And I think, it is seeing some play. And maybe this is gonna get more consistent in the future. I really hope we get some kind of units that like, because I know they have some units in Hearthstone where they're really big statted, but they can't attack, for example, and then they have kind of some way to get around that. So you get like really big units on the board early, and then you can play this. That could be pretty fun, and it could also be interesting to use in like, I don't know. I think. In my head, this just feels so inconsistent, but I haven't played and I haven't tried it out yet myself, so maybe it's not as bad as I feel like it is. But I think definitely the fact that it can only use your own units is kind of makes it a lot worse than it could have been.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that for that reason, I'll probably give it a 6. I think it is a fun card, but it does require like a very specific type of deck building to work. Also, I think what makes it good in the Mundo decks is that you're able to just like discard so many cards. So like if this is stuck in your hand, you just discard it and replace it with something else.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I'm just gonna give this a 5 because I haven't really felt the power of it yet. So maybe I'm gonna change my mind on that later. But for now, it's a 5 for me. Okay, moving on to the Mundo himself, Dr. Mundo Expert. 8 energy, 2 might, 6... No, sorry, 8 energy, 2 power, 6 might. My might is increased by the number of cards in your trash, and at the start of your beginning phase, recycle 3 from your trash. Yeah, this card is pretty good. It is, it's just an enormous body, and people kind of figured out that, okay, well, a lot of the removal in the game is based on might and dealing damage, and this is just gonna like soak up anything. And against certain decks, this is unremovable. And I think like against an Ari, for example, the only ways you have of removing this is through charm. And if they get this out early and you're not like you don't have enough points, then this could just like win the game on the spot. It does require setup because you do have to fill your graveyard up, and you kind of have to, because it does recycle 3 at the at the start of your beginning phase every turn. So you kind of have to have a really healthy graveyard to make this worth it. But when you play it out, it feels really good. But it's because it is just a mountain that's basically never dying.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a huge boy, and just he is very expensive. But once you get him out, presumably if you are playing Mundo in a deck, you are filling your deck with a bunch of cards that kind of like are cheap and also replace themselves. So you're constantly able to keep this thing going. Yeah, and like you said, he's generally not going to die to damage unless he like goes through a few cycles of being on the field, which at that point he would have already gotten you some points and gotten his money's worth. But yeah, I like this card a lot. Also, I love that he's mined because I think that's funny.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it will be said, like against some decks this is just an auto lose, and then against other decks like Victor, for example, doesn't care about this because like Hidden Blade just kills it, and then that is just a huge investment to that gets removed really easily in sub decks, but then against other decks it's just impossible to remove. So yeah, I think I'm gonna give this a 7.
Yeah, I'll give it a 7 as well.
Alright. We're looking at Echo Recurrent. 5 energy, 1 power, 5 might, accelerate, and Death Knell recycle me to ready your runes.
This is one of the few like true accelerate cards in blue. I think it's really just this and Watcher. And then you have Sprite Mother and Sprite's Call, which make ready sprites. But yeah, I think this card, I want to try it and play with it more. Like on it, his death knell is like crazy, right? Or at least it seems crazy. Like you can recycle him and essentially get all of your runes back for that turn. But I think in practice it gets kind of tricky, right? Where you want him to die at the right time, but then sometimes he's just not dying at the right time, and that's where things get weird. He is only 5 might, so for 5 and 2 blue, or sorry, 6 and 2 blue, he's a little understated there. But he is accelerate, which is rare in blue. So, and he's like bigger than your average unit. So, I think that's also fine. I think he's just fine right now. I'm excited to see like some crazy turns where you're able to kind of like do these crazy combo turns. But I feel like a lot of the setup is generally not particularly great. But I am gonna, for the deck I was telling you about before, I am gonna test this in that deck because I think it actually might be kind of decent.
Yeah, yeah. I think like I've seen some players play this with like the time warp to kind of attack and then just reset everything and time warp and then just win the game out of that. But the fact that your opponent has so much agency in whether or not this is gonna function at all. Like they could do some stuff to kind of make this not die, and then you kind of have to like, and I mean that this dying on your opponent's turn, I mean doesn't really get you anything, unless you have like a bunch of spells that you want to use. It could be interesting to play this in like a Karthus deck where you can kind of trigger the Death Knell, and then exhaust all your runes to get all the energy, and then like reset them again to have a bunch of energy. But at that point you have to have a really big hand with a lot of stuff you want to do. So I think this has huge potential, but for now I I don't think the time to make this really good is yet. But I think like the whole time warp thing, I think is pretty funny.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this a 6.
Yeah, 6 is fine for Echo for me as well. And Mr. Heimerdinger, Inventor, 3 energy, 1 might, 3 power, 3 energy, 1 power, 3 might. I have all exhaust abilities of all friendly legends, units, and gear. This is one of those cards that you kind of have to keep an eye out for, I think. I really want to see like us get to the point where you can just fill your deck up with a bunch of cards that have exhaust abilities, and this just becomes like a rainbow card. It can just do anything. Like some abilities are really good to use again, and it also like copies the legend abilities as well. So it could do like you could just give you an extra gear if you're playing, or an extra power if you're playing Kaisa. It could deal extra damage if you're playing the Iron Ballista. It could do so much. Like the sky is the limit for this one. But I think for now it's like of course it kind of dies to the Falling Star check. It is only 3 might. It does cost a power to play out, and then unless you have something really good to use with it right away, then it's not gonna really it's not gonna be worth it, because it, like as all units, it enters exhausted, so you're not gonna be able to use it right away unless you play it with something like the Sun Disk or something to kind of make it enter ready. But yeah, I think this card is really interesting, and I hope it's gonna see a lot of play, because I think the ability is really cool. But for now, I think it is just, in this meta in particular, I don't think this is good enough.
Yeah, totally agree. I think this has a very strong ability for the future. The current cards that you can use it with are not particularly great. Not really worth 3 energy and a power on a susceptible body.
Yep, I agree.
I think this is probably like a 4 for me right now.
Yeah, I think a 4. Yeah, 4 is fine for me as well. I would really like to see this ability on a legend. That would be really cool. If this was a legend, that could be really interesting. But yeah, for now, I don't think this is that good. Yeah. Okay, we are looking at Kaisa Evolutionary. 6 energy, 1 power, 6 might, ganking, and when I conquer, you may play a spell from your trash with energy cost less than your points without paying its energy cost. Then recycle it. I think this card is very cool. I actually played a deck recently, and I made a video, or I haven't made it yet, but I'm gonna make a video where I play this in Ari, in kind of like a Spellslinger Ari deck, because I think because this is kind of it is a Kaisa, so it's kind of meant to be played in the Kaisa deck as like in like a spell heavy Kaisa deck. But I think there, like a lot of the spells you want to play are like the Falling Stars, and well, I mean Falling Stars as well. But then like the Void Seeker and a bunch of the red removal spells require your opponent to have stuff on the battlefield. And then if this is your only thing on the battlefield, you don't really get any value out of swinging with this. But I think when you pair it up with green, you can kind of use it with the stuff like Discipline to just draw a card. You can use it with the Finder Center to draw a card and channel a rune. There are a lot more utility in that deck, and you could also use it with Charm, which I did. You kind of charm something, attack, and then you attack, conquer, and charm again from the trash. Yeah, I think it's funny. It is a bit of a drawback that you do have to pay the power cost of whatever you're using, and it is limited to your points, so you can't use this to kind of loop a Time Warp, for example, which I think is good. So there is a limit to this one, and if you're really late game, you can use like a Singularity as well, which is insane. So I think this card is really cool, and it is a 6 might, so it is big. It does die to Falling Star, ironically, but then again, it's really good to play in with green, because then you have access to On Guard and Discipline and all the buff spells. So yeah, I really like this card, but I don't think it is. Maybe it's not. It doesn't have enough spells, I think, to kind of make this card worth it like 100%. But I do really like it.
Yeah, this is weird because this card is like, it reads really good, like really well, right? It's strong, it's got ganking, and you get a free spell. The problem is that it's expensive and slow. So you're spending you're essentially an entire turn, and then half of the runes that you'll be getting the next turn, to play something that isn't doing anything right away. And then on top of that, to get the benefit from it, you need to successfully conquer. So like you have to not only live through your opponent's turn, but then attack with it, and then hopefully live through that combat phase. And I think that's why like the effect is so strong, because it's very difficult to actually do that. There might be a world where you play the battlefield that gives you 1 extra point automatically, so that way you're always a little bit ahead of where you normally would be on a normal scoring tempo, which is what I would imagine this is kind of balanced around. So that might be good, but again, I don't see this being. I like the card a lot, but I don't really see it being used too often, except for like some cheeky tech choices that are gonna, to kind of surprise your opponent. Because generally, I don't think your opponent's going to be playing around this, so that there's some benefit there.
Yeah.
I do hope that there is something to make this useful in the future, or more useful, I should say, like something that gives it accelerate, or like enters ready, or like make a copy that's a smaller version of it, but then has the same effect, like things like that.
Wow.
I think would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I think I'm probably valuing this a bit more than you, but I think I am gonna give this middle of the tree 7. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking a 5 for me.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. I mean,
I do like the card.
Yeah, it is a bit slow, but I think one of the big strengths is that it has ganking, so it can do this every turn. And I mean, it also kind of lives and dies what you pair alongside with, and I think pairing it with the green is the best way for now, because you'd get the protection of the green cards and kind of make this a bit harder to remove. So yeah. Okay, moving on to the Malzahar Fanatic. 4 energy, 3 might, kill a friendly unit or gear, and then exhaust action, add 2 power.
Yeah, I don't think this card is very good, unfortunately. It doesn't cost power, which is great, but like a lot of these other, like, kind of sit on the bench cards, it has 3 might, so it's ripe for being picked off by a falling star. And you also need to kill a unit or gear to use its effects, and it adds power, right? So you can do it in a showdown, which is cool. But yeah, I don't know. I think this might be a combo card in the future, where you're killing things that have death now, or things that gear that has abilities when they die, and then really just using it as a trigger to for those things, and then you have the added power as a bonus. But yeah, right now I think with Falling Star just being so prevalent, and also just being able to pick this guy off your bench for 4 is pretty tough.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just a bit too weak for what it does. It runs into the same problem that a lot of the other units that kind of have the same. You kind of want to keep them in the back, in the base. You kind of take your turn off to play a unit out that you're never going to attack with, realistically. It feels really bad, and then the effect isn't worth it, because, I mean, it's nice to have 2 power, but, I mean, all the cards that cost power, you're still playing them in your deck, even though you have to pay the power cost. So this is just, it's just like the definition of like a comfort card. It's nice to have the ability, but it's so expensive to kind of get that engine going. So yeah, I don't think this card is pretty, I don't think it's, good at all, actually.
Yeah, I'll probably give this like a 3 or a 4.
Yeah, I can give this a 3. I think it's one of the weaker cards blue currently has, unfortunately. Okay, Progress Day. 6 energy, 1 might. No, 6 energy, 1 power for a draw 4. I mean, yeah, this is just like a pumped up Consult the Past. It is very expensive. It's draw 4. It takes a turn off to draw 4 cards, essentially. And this is one of those cards that could be paired with the Echo, because then you kind of get all of your energy back again, which could be interesting. But you do run this in certain decks, but it also requires a certain deck, and it also requires a certain board state and kind of game, like the stage of the game to actually, for you to have the opportunity to actually take a turn off to just draw 4 cards. And I think you could play it in like Lux, but in Lux you're already drawing so many cards, so like this just drawing you an extra card doesn't really feel worth it. So yeah, I think it's it's a very strong ability, but I think it is also it's very costly, both in energy and also just the flow of the game, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree there. I think that on paper, this, it's like, hey, draw 4 for 1. Seems pretty good. But it does take up an entire turn and a power. And usually in the decks that you would want to run this, like, those decks already draw cards pretty well, right? Like, if you're going to run this in Kaisa, which I know that some of the Chinese lists were running this, it's like, Kaisa already draws cards really well. She already has a huge hand. She's already replacing things. Same thing with Ari. It's like, you have a lot of these cards that you're already drawing stuff. So it like, this just isn't necessary in the decks that you'd want to use it anyway.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to give it a 6, just because it is a huge draw spell, and drawing cards is nice.
Yeah, 6 is fine, I think. I was thinking like 5 or 6, but I think that 6 is fine. Okay, promising future. 5 energy, 1 power. Each player looks at the top 5 cards of their main deck, chooses 1, then recycles the rest. Starting with the next player, each player plays those cards, ignoring energy costs. This is a very fun card. It's a very fun card. I think this is one of those cards that's gonna get better when you get more consistency in the form of like just looking on the top of your deck, and this is one of those decks or one of those cards that really benefit off the vision keyword. But the fact that your opponent gets to do the same is a really big drawback, because they could get something that's better than what you get, because you do look quite deep. You look 5 cards deep. But I think for now, I think this is like, it's mostly just played in in multiplayer, I think. But in multiplayer, it's a really fun card. So yeah.
Yeah, this seems to me like a multiplayer card. I don't even know if it's particularly good in multiplayer, but it is chaos inducing, like more of a politics card. So that's pretty fun. I could see a world where we, in the future, where you're able to create decks which mitigate the downside of your opponent. So for example, like, hey, you play this and you get the card that you pull the dragon that kills something, right? And then it's like, the worst case, they take something you want to kill, you kill that, so you paid 5 in blue for a 6 might unit, which is like on rate for a vanilla body. Or they get something bad and you kill something else on the field that you want, right? Again, that's the high roll of getting that particular card. But if there are more and more effects where you're like, where I think that where paying 5 and a blue is a steal for it, like for what you're getting, then I can see that being like, this being more palatable. Again, because you are giving your opponent something as well. I don't think it's particularly great, but again, if you're able to make a deck that is taking advantage of this, and maybe maybe there's a future where this is decent. Maybe there's a promising future for it.
Ooh, I see what you did there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this. I think I'm gonna give this a 3 or 4. I think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah. All right, we're looking at the mighty master himself, Thousand-Tailed Watcher. 7 energy, 1 power, 7 might. Accelerate. When you play me, give enemy units -3 might this turn to a minimum of 1, and you will know when you've pushed the wilds too far. And yeah, I think the limit is 10 for this one. Yeah, I think this card is incredible.
It's quite possibly the best card in the entire game.
Yeah.
It's up there. I can think of like maybe 1 or 2 other cards that are at this level maybe, and this is this card single-handedly like warps the meta. It's just so good.
Yeah, it's incredible. When your opponent exhausts 8 runes and then recycles 2 blue ones, you're like, oh shit. Well, that's the table's turn. That's the table's turned. Yeah, this card is incredible. It feels so good to play. It's always flips the tables, unless your opponent has like a humongous board. And this is just incredible. And the fact that it gives all enemy units -3. Means that you could combo this off with, like, for example, like charms if you're playing it in like the Ari, for example, because you can charm like the back row units that are also gonna get the -3. I mean, yeah.
As well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this. I mean, we could talk a lot about this card, but I think it's just, this is one of the best cards in the game.
Yeah, I think that this card is almost single-handedly the reason holding is not very good in this game currently.
Yeah.
Just because at any point, if they get to 8 runes and you have more than one thing on the battlefield, all of your things are getting -3 and getting run over. So it is incredibly strong.
To put this into perspective, your opponent could have a battlefield with 6 4-might units, and this could wipe all of that out, which is quite ridiculous. So yeah. Okay, moving on from the big boy, we are looking at another big boy, a slightly lesser boy, Victor Innovator. 4 energy, 1 power, 3 might. When you play a card on an opponent's turn, play a 1 might recruit unit token in your base.
This has the curse of 3 might and for costing power.
It's one of the star childs, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great effect, but the fact that it needs to stay on your backline, and it like so easily dies, it's just, I don't think it's particularly great because of that reason. If we have better support for like protecting things on your backline, I think that would be better. This would be better. It's probably the best in Ari, where you're actually able to buff him up with some spells to save him. But yeah, I think this card, great effect, poor stats.
Yeah, I agree. I actually, in the Ari deck, I played the Kaisa. I also played this. It's really fun deck, so stay tuned for that, to all my millions of viewers out there. This card really, because like green is kind of the color that plays in your opponent's turn with all the buffs, and blue has all the debuffs, so that combination is kind of made in heaven. It is a Victor, so it's kind of meant to be played in Victor, which is blue-yellow, which don't really have that many spells or that many things you kind of want to do in your opponent's turn, at least not when it comes to cheap stuff, because this gets better if you can like play 3 spells on a turn, for example, and just like spew out units. This becomes really good. But yeah, I mean, as you said, it does have the star curse. It is a 3-might unit, it dies to that. Green mitigates some of that because you can play on guard to give it a +1, and then because usually they want to like divide the damage among 2 units, and then they can kind of counteract that, which is sweet. But yeah, it is a bit squishy. It is a bit expensive to play out, so you don't really want to play a playset of this, I think. And at the end of the day, you're only getting recruits. So unless you have some way of kind of mitigating the fact that those are only 1-might units, this becomes significantly worse. But I think this is a really fun card, and it does have its uses.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna give this a 6 or a 7.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this a strong 6 or a weak 7. Yeah. Okay, we are looking at Wraith of Echoes. 6 energy, 1 power, 5 might. The first time a friendly unit dies each turn, draw 1. The big problem with this one is that it's so expensive. It's a really good ability, and this is really interesting when paired with something like Baited Hook, because then basically each time you use the hook you're gonna draw a card, and that is a really powerful machinery to get going. But the thing is that you do have to take kind of a turn off to play this out, and it is a big body. But if you want to use the effect consistently, you don't really want to attack with this all the time. So then you spend a whole turn to develop a big body that's only just going to sit in your base, which feels pretty bad. So for now, it's not the best card. It's a very good ability, and I think this is also one of those cards that I'm kind of keeping an eye out on. If we have some cards that kind of can kill themselves to get some kind of effect, maybe that could be fun with this one. So it is one I'm keeping my eye out for, but for now I don't think the shell is there yet.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same for all the same reasons. I'm probably going to give this like a 5, maybe a 4. It's like, I like the card, but it's just not quite there right now.
Yeah, because I like it, I'm gonna give it a 5, but I think this is probably supposed to be a 4, yeah. Okay, we're looking at Ari, the lady herself. Inquisitive, 3 energy, 1 power, 3 might. When I attack or defend, give an enemy unit here -2 might this turn to a minimum of 1.
Great ability. Power and 3 might.
3 might, yeah.
It dies to 1/2 of a falling star, and you've, kind of going back on your next turn for that, and before even getting an effect, right? It's pretty rough, but the effect itself is very strong, which I do like a lot, and especially when on defense combined with the 1 reduction there, it's a total of 3 reduction, which is pretty insane. But yeah, I think that unfortunately, I think there's like uses for her because the effect is like pretty good, but again, it's like because Kaisa is so prevalent and Falling Star is incredibly good in that deck, it's kind of scary using this. Like maybe if you side it in right for against like a Master Yi or some other decks, because no Falling Star, and also like this is actually pretty good against Charm, because if they charm this in, they get the -2. So like I think like this might be a better sideboard option.
Yeah, I actually love this card. I think this card is incredible. Of course, it does die to Falling Star, but I think also Ari is the best color combination to play against Falling Star, because you have the Hourglasses, you have the Defies, you have the buffs, you have like all that stuff. And this, like if you manage to get this out on the battlefield and untap with it, you feel invincible, because this like in combination with the Ari Legend, as you said, everything that attacks is gonna get -3. So this becomes incredible when you pair it with stuff like Charm, as you mentioned, and also with the Blitzcrank, because a Blitzcrank is gonna like just fish in like an Ace Might unit by itself, which is incredible. And then if you have some buff spells on top of that, you're just gonna be able to take care of anything. So in those kinds of decks where you kind of latch onto one battlefield first and then you just stay there until you win, I think this card is really good. But yeah, as you said, like if you don't have the proper kind of package around her, then she's way too squishy to be kind of consistently played in this meta. But I think if you manage to make her stick, like stay alive, she is incredible.
Yeah, I'm thinking like a 6 or a 7.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm definitely going for a 7 for this one. I wish he was higher, but the 3 might is the bane of a lot of cards in this game, unfortunately, as of now. Okay, we're looking at Seal of Insight. Yep, 0 energy, 1 power, reaction, add 1 mind power. I think we gave all the others a 5 or 6. I'm gonna give this the same.
Yeah, same. I think probably blue is like the weaker of the seals, like just because there are all the cards that have double blue or more are good, but generally like they're also decks that either can cheat power via Kaisa or have ways of like just naturally ramping there, or using green ramp. So it's like you don't need the seals to really pay for those things. But yeah, I like it. I mean, seals are fine.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Teemo Strategist, 2 energy, 2 power, no. 2 energy, 1 power, 2 might, hidden. When I defend or am played from hidden, reveal the top 5 cards of your main deck. Deal 1 to an enemy unit here for each card with hidden, then recycle them. This card, this card annoys me, because the thing is about this one is that it can only target 1 unit. So you can't target like a bunch of recruits, for example. You can only target 1 unit, which is the big downfall of this one. And as I said when we talked about the Avid Shaver, is that this only activates on defense. It does like the way like those attack and defense triggers work now is that whenever like if a showdown is already ongoing, and you kind of do something to, if you play like a tie turner, for example, and you kind of swap this in, this ability is gonna immediately trigger. And like for now we don't really have enough hidden cards to make this consistently get like a 4 or a 5. And I think the main drawback is that as I said, it can only target 1 unit. If it could like divide that damage among like how many ever units you wanted to, then this would be a lot better. But for now I don't think this is that good, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think that the fact that it only hits one thing is obviously weaker, right? And then it's a casino effect. There's a deck building cost of adding a bunch of hiddens into your deck just so you can utilize this effect. And you might high roll and hit a Nocturne or like hit exactly what you need to KO, but on average you're probably not going to just outright kill the thing that's attacking. You're probably going to trade into it, which means you still lose your thing, right? So it just means you're trading up, which is still good, but it's like not that good. Yeah, I think this card is, dare I say, not very good. I think it's probably like middle of the pack for me.
Yeah. And I'm thinking like this could be fun to play in combination with something like Annie or with the Annie where everything deals 2 damage instead. But yeah, for now I don't think this is that good. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna give this. A 5.
Yeah, I was thinking 5, maybe a 4.
Yeah.
But the upside of this is like because it's fun, and like hey, there might be some. It's like a very unique effect. I'll give it a 5.
Yeah. All right, and then we're looking at Time Warp, the thing that has been terrorizing the meta lately. 10 energy, 4 power. Take a turn after this one, and then banish this. Yeah, you take this one.
Amazing. Yeah. You look at it and you're like, wow, 4 power? That's crazy. But you literally just take an entire turn. And generally when you're playing this, you're also getting 1 or 2 points. So this card is crazy. It lets you steal games. And I think that most blue decks are probably running it now. And it is one of those cards that is like, it changes the way you need to approach the game, because it's like no longer, hey, they're at 6 points, they're about like I'm in danger of losing next turn. It's like, hey, they're at 4 points. And it's like, well, you have to like make sure that they're gonna not be on 10 mana or so 10 energy at 4 points, which is like pretty early in the game. So you can do some crazy things, and if you have a real high roll, 2 points.
Yeah.
But I won a game earlier today where I double Time Warps 2 turns in a row and won. Insane. And yeah, it is gross. I think that it's not particularly fun to have to play around this card. Though because of this card, I have seen more win walls in main deck, and the card Mystic Reversal in the sideboard just to steal an entire turn. But it's like the problem with those cards is that if you see they have 3 or 4 mana up, you just don't cast it. You just wait, because usually you have other things that you're doing that are also strong. Like I think what's so strong about the decks is that you generally don't need to rely on this card to win you the game. It is just an alternate way to win the game earlier, So yeah, I think this card's amazing. 9 out of 10, or maybe even 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, like in the beginning of like trading card games in Magic, you had like the Time Warp or the Time Step and all those cards that kind of take an extra turn cards, and they've all been good. They've all been like banished at some point. So yeah, this is just bound to be good. Like as you said, you can kind of just steal games from out of nowhere, and especially like people are playing it with the green Ari now, and there you just get an extra point. So if you're on 6 points, you can just like holding 1 battlefield is enough because you get 2 for holding. So yeah, I think this card is, it is a one of a kind, and hopefully it stays one of a kind. But yeah, 10 I think as well. Mm-hmm. All right. We are getting into the final 2 cards here. We're ending off with one of these 2, and that is Unchecked Power. 7 energy to power, exhaust all friendly units, then deal 12 to all units at battlefields. So yeah, this is like the big board wipe. It does deal to your own units as well, and you can't just wipe the board and then attack with your units afterwards. At least not now. Maybe some combo exists where you can actually do that as well. It does cost 7 energy, so you do have the potential to play something after this if you have a bunch of energy up, or a bunch of runes and resources available. But yeah, this is also one of a kind. It kind of just resets the whole board, but the big problem is that it's very easy to play around. If your opponent is playing like a Lux, you are going to play around this. If you're playing like a bunch of tokens, you are going to attack with one token at a time. And this sitting in your hand feels really bad. But if your opponent is not playing around it, then this feels really good. So yeah.
Yeah, it's my favorite blue card that is mistaken for yellow all the time.
Yes.
All yellow art.
Yes.
But no, yeah, this card is actually it always feels so good using it. But
So
it
good.
definitely has its drawbacks. You'll generally kill anything in a battlefield, but people typically won't hold at battlefields with more than one unit, like per battlefield. So it's for like your entire turn and 2 power, it does feel bad sometimes. And also like the turn that you're playing this, you have to exhaust your units, so you also aren't like capitalizing on the free battlefields to score. So it's like it is a very slow card. But if the opponent makes the mistake of really stacking a battlefield, or if you force them into position where they feel like they have to stack a battlefield, then you punish with this. This card is like pretty good. There's nothing quite like this card in the game right now. So for that reason, I like this card a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you can go below a 7 for this one, but I think I would go higher. But the fact that it's so easy to play around makes it a bit lower. So I think a 7 is good for this one.
Yeah, I think a 7 is good. High 7.
Yeah. Okay, and then the final card of Mind is a Lux Illuminated. 6 energy, 1 power, 5 might. When you play a spell that costs 5 or more, give me +3 might this turn.
Yeah, it's an interesting card. I like the effects, but I also, for its cost, I just don't think it's worth playing. 6 and a power is very expensive for a unit that doesn't do anything the turn it comes in. It's only 5 power, so it'll die to most removal. That isn't just like an early game removal like a Hextech Ray. And Void Seeker, it'll die to that if you combo with a Stupefy. You're playing a 5 cost spell, it would be great. So essentially you're drawing a card and then you're buffing her up, and in theory you could do that twice in turn, if you have like the max mana, so you can give her +6, which makes her an 11, which is like good. But at the same time, I think like if you're already doing that and you're already able to cast 2 5 or 6 cost spells in one turn, it's like you're probably winning off the spells and not the not the +6 might you're getting there. Yeah, you could run her as a chosen champion, but she's just so expensive, and I feel like the other chosen Lux champion is just significantly better. So yeah, I looked into this card a bit, but maybe I'll try it, but it doesn't really read well to me. It doesn't really seem like it's going to be very good.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you never really want to play this instead of the other Lux, because the other Lux is just free resources, which is exactly what you want in that deck. So they kind of play very different roles. I think if you kind of get to the point where you can have this out and like play a big spell, kill something, get this buff, attack, and then also have enough energy to do that on your opponent's turn with like a Falling Comet, for example, then this could be very good, because then you kind of get that you can use this effect defensively as well. But I think just the fact that it costs 6 and a power to play it out, and it doesn't do anything when you play it out unless you have a bunch of energy, I think it just makes this a bit weaker. But yeah, I am willing to kind of give it a shot and kind of try it out, because it kind of does feel a little bit similar to the green Master Yi, where that also grows to an 8 if you meet certain conditions. So yeah, but I think like just looking at it, I feel like this is just a bit too slow for what it does.
Yep, I feel the same. I'll probably give this a 5.
Yeah, just ending up on the middle of the tree of 5 for me as well. It's good. Okay, and yeah, we're back to Consult the Past. Yeah, that is gonna end it for this one. I really hope you enjoyed. I hope you stayed with us this far. We've been going for almost 2 hours, so this is every time we kind of say, okay, we're gonna stop them rambling, and then we just ramble. But that is kind of where the fun discussions are had as well. So but yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to see you in the next one, but until then, take care and bye bye.